morning of June 14, 1997, began like something out of a postcard. Soft sunlight spilled through the tall pine trees of Washington's Cascade Mountains, painting the forest floor in warm golden streaks. Birds chirped in the distance, and a light breeze carried the fresh scent of pine and damp earth. Mark Carter had woken up earlier than everyone else, stepping outside their small rented cabin to breathe in the crisp mountain air, feeling like this hike would be the highlight of their family vacation. Inside, Laura was quietly packing sandwiches, fruit, and bottled water into a blue picnic basket. She kept checking her list, making sure nothing was forgotten. Emily sat at the table coloring in her notebook, drawing tall trees and a little stick figure family walking together, while Noah tugged at his hiking boots, struggling to tie the laces properly. Laughter echoed through the cabin as Mark teased Noah for wearing two different socks, and for a moment, everything felt safe, warm, and perfectly normal. By the time they loaded their car, the sky was bright and cloudless. The Pine Ridge Trail sign stood tall at the entrance, its wooden surface worn from years of hikers passing through. Mark snapped a photo of Laura and the kids in front of the sign, all of them smiling wide, unaware that this picture would later become one of the most haunting images connected to their disappearance. In the photo, Emily was holding her red jacket, and Noah was pointing excitedly toward the forest ahead. At the trail log, Mark carefully wrote their names and the date, adding a small note, "Family hike, back before dark." Laura watched him sign it, a strange feeling briefly flickering across her face. Though she brushed it away almost immediately, other hikers passed by, nodding politely, but no one stopped to talk. The woods felt unusually quiet, almost as if it were waiting for something to happen. As the Carter family stepped onto the dirt path, their shoes crunched softly against the gravel and fallen leaves. The tall trees closed in around them, creating a long, winding corridor of green shadows. Sunlight filtered through the branches above, breaking into shifting patterns on the ground. With every step they took deeper into Pine Ridge Trail, the sounds of the outside world slowly faded, leaving only the rustle of leaves and the faint echo of their own footsteps. When the sun dipped below the mountain line and the Carter family still hadn't returned, an uneasy silence settled over the Pine Ridge parking area. Their dusty blue SUV sat alone beneath the tall pines, exactly where Mark had parked it that morning. The engine was cold. The doors were locked. Inside, Laura's purse was still on the seat, and the picnic basket remained untouched in the back, as if they had never intended to be gone for long. Park rangers were called just after nightfall, and within minutes, flashlights began slicing through the darkness of the forest. The beam of light caught on tree trunks, roots, and thick brush as searchers moved carefully along the trail. Their boots pressed into the soft dirt, stepping over the same path the Carter family had taken only hours earlier. Everything about the trail looked normal, almost too normal, like nothing had disturbed it. Soon, a tracking dog picked up their scent near the trailhead and began pulling forward with urgency. It followed their path deeper into the woods, weaving between trees and rocks, until suddenly it stopped. The handler looked down in confusion. The footprints of 4 people were clearly visible in the dirt, and then, without warning, they simply vanished. There were no signs of struggle, no skid marks, no broken branches, just smooth, untouched ground where the trail should have continued. Searchers knelt down, shining their lights across the soil, brushing aside leaves and pebbles. It was as if the family had stepped into thin air. One ranger swore he felt a sudden chill in the air, despite the summer heat. The forest around them seemed unnaturally quiet, and even the insects had gone silent, as if something in the woods was listening. Radio chatter filled the darkness as more teams were called in. Helicopters hovered overhead, their searchlights sweeping the treetops. But on the ground, everyone stood frozen around that empty patch of dirt, staring at the place where the trail ended and the carter's footprints should have continued, unable to explain how 4 people could disappear so completely in the middle of a clear hiking path. By sunrise the next morning, Pine Ridge Trail had turned into a massive search zone. Dozens of volunteers, state troopers, and forest rangers spread out across the mountains, forming long lines as they combed through thick brush and steep hillsides. Helicopters thundered overhead, their blades sending leaves and dust into the air, while search dogs barked sharply, trying to track a scent that seemed to lead nowhere. Every inch of the forest was treated as if the Carter family might be just beyond the next tree. Days passed, and the search only grew larger. Hundreds of people flooded into the area, some bringing maps, others carrying shovels and ropes. Teams checked caves, riverbanks, and ravines, calling out the names Mark, Laura, Emily, and No, until their voices went hoarse. The woods answered with nothing but echoes, and every hour that passed made the silence feel heavier and more unsettling. Then, 3 days into the search, a volunteer made a discovery that chilled everyone. High up in the branches of a tall pine tree, nearly 40 feet above the ground, something bright red was caught between 2 limbs. When rangers climbed up to retrieve it, they found Emily's jacket, the same one she was holding in the family's last photo. There were no scratch marks on the tree, no broken branches below, and no footprints anywhere near the trunk. The jacket was carefully placed into an evidence bag, but it only raised more questions than answers. Emily was 10 years old, far too small to climb that high, and there was no sign she had been lifted or thrown. Investigators stood beneath the tree, staring upward, trying to imagine how a child's jacket could end up so high in the air without anyone seeing or hearing a thing. As weeks turned into months, the forest slowly swallowed the search efforts. One by one, teams were pulled back, funding ran out, and the mountains returned to their quiet state. The Carter family's case was labeled unsolved, their names filed away in dusty records, while Pine Ridge Trail remained unchanged, hiding whatever it had taken beneath its thick shadows. After the search teams finally left Pine Ridge Trail, the forest seemed to breathe again, as if it had been holding something back the entire time. Over the years, fallen leaves covered the places where investigators once stood, and new trees slowly grew where evidence markers had been planted. Hikers continued to pass through the area, unaware that just beneath their feet lay one of the darkest mysteries in the state's history. The Carter family became a quiet legend in nearby towns. Old-timers at diners whispered about the trail, warning people not to wander too far past the marked paths. Some claimed they had heard voices late at night, soft and distant, calling out names that matched the missing family. Others said strange lights had been seen drifting between the trees, appearing and disappearing without any explanation. Every few years, a new investigator would reopen the case, hoping fresh eyes might find something everyone else had missed. Boxes of old reports were pulled from storage, filled with blurry photos, witness statements, and maps covered in red ink. But no matter how deeply they dug into the paperwork, the same questions remained unanswered, frozen in time, just like the day the Carters vanished. Meanwhile, Pine Ridge Trail kept welcoming hikers as if nothing had ever happened. Children laughed, dogs barked, and families took photos beneath the same wooden sign the Carters once stood beside. Yet some visitors reported feeling watched, as if something in the woods was aware of them, following their movements just beyond the trees. Then, in early 2024, a private search group approached the park with advanced scanning equipment that could see deep beneath the ground. The technology was far more powerful than anything available back in 1997, capable of detecting hidden spaces, buried objects, and underground chambers that no human eye could reach. And for the first time in decades, Pine Ridge Trail was about to be examined in a way it never had before. The scanning equipment began to beep softly beneath Pine Ridge Trail, its screen flashing with strange shapes buried deep below the forest floor. The technician stood quietly, studying the data as one hollow space after another appeared, forming the outline of something that did not belong there. It wasn't a natural tunnel. It was too smooth, too deliberate, as if someone or something had carved it out long ago and then sealed it away. Rescue workers marked the exact spot and began digging, shovels biting into the damp earth. Roots snapped and soil was thrown aside as the hole slowly deepened. After several tense hours, one of the workers struck something solid. The sound echoed differently than rock. Carefully, they brushed away the dirt, revealing a flat stone slab that looked like it had been placed there on purpose. With a heavy push, the slab was moved, and a wave of cold, stale air rushed out of the opening. Flashlights shone down into a narrow chamber that disappeared into darkness. The air smelled old, like it had been trapped for decades. One by one, the team lowered themselves inside, their lights cutting through thick shadows that seemed to swallow everything around them. Inside the cave, they found 4 backpacks lined neatly against the wall, covered in dust but still intact. Each one was labeled with a name written in marker: Mark, Laura, Emily, and Noah. Nearby sat a rusted camera, its strap tangled and brittle. The sight of these personal items sent a chill through everyone, because it meant the Carters had been here, somewhere, beneath the trail that had swallowed them. Then one of the searchers noticed strange markings on the cave wall. Carved into the stone was a rough drawing of Pine Ridge Trail, showing the path above and the cave below, connected by a symbol no one recognized. It looked less like a map and more like a warning, scratched in deep, jagged lines that suggested fear, urgency, and something terrible trying to be understood. Back at the mobile command unit, the recovered camera was placed carefully on a metal table surrounded by investigators who barely spoke. Dust was wiped from its cracked screen, and when the power finally flickered on, everyone leaned closer. The tiny lens revealed a shaky video, clearly recorded by someone who had been walking, the image bouncing slightly with every step as the Carter family moved along Pine Ridge Trail. At first, the footage seemed harmless. Trees passed by on both sides, sunlight breaking through the branches above. Emily's voice could be heard laughing, and Noah was complaining about his feet hurting. Mark's voice was calm as he pointed out a bird in the distance. The forest looked peaceful, but there was something in the background that didn't belong, a faint low hum that never faded. The sound slowly grew louder as the family stopped walking. Laura whispered, asking if anyone else could hear it. The camera tilted upward toward the trees, but nothing was visible, only shadows and leaves swaying gently. The humming continued, deep and steady, almost like something breathing just beyond the frame. Suddenly, Emily gasped. The camera swung wildly as Mark turned, trying to focus on whatever had caught her attention. Laura shouted the children's names, her voice shaking. In the final clear moment of the recording, both kids were staring straight ahead, their faces pale, their eyes wide, frozen in fear, as if something was standing right in front of them. The video cut to static, but the audio kept running. Heavy breathing filled the speaker, mixed with the same strange humming sound, now louder than ever. A muffled scream echoed, then a sharp noise like something slamming shut, and the tape continued recording only darkness, capturing sounds that no one in the room could explain. When the cave was fully searched, there was no trace of the Carter family themselves. No bones, no blood, no signs of a struggle. The backpacks, the camera, and the strange wall markings were the only proof that they had ever been there. Investigators stood in silence, staring at the empty space where 4 people should have been, trying to understand how a family could vanish and leave behind nothing but objects. Forensic teams examined every inch of the cave, brushing dust from the floor and shining ultraviolet lights across the stone walls. There were no footprints leading out, no drag marks, and no evidence of anyone entering or leaving after the Carters. It was as if the cave had swallowed them and then closed itself, sealing whatever had happened inside. Word of the discovery spread quickly, drawing reporters, locals, and curious onlookers back to Pine Ridge Trail. Some claimed the forest had always been cursed, while others believed the cave was part of a secret underground system never meant to be found. Old hikers came forward with stories of getting lost for hours, even though they never left the trail, as if the woods itself had rearranged around them. Late at night, park rangers began reporting strange activity near the cave site. Equipment would malfunction for no clear reason. Radios would crackle with voices that didn't belong to anyone on the channel. A low humming sound, eerily similar to the one on the tape, was sometimes heard drifting through the trees, rising and falling like a distant echo. Even after the area was sealed off, people hiking nearby swore they could hear children calling for help, their voices faint and trembling, coming from somewhere beneath the ground. Some followed the sound until it suddenly stopped, leaving them alone in the forest, surrounded by tall, silent trees that looked exactly the same in every direction. To this day, Pine Ridge Trail remains open to hikers, but something about it has never felt the same. The cave was sealed, the evidence locked away, and the official case quietly closed. But the forest never gave back what it took. No bodies were ever found. No answers were ever written. Only questions remain, buried beneath the dirt and trees. Some believe the Carter family simply died in the wilderness. Others believe something far darker pulled them away from our world. But one thing is certain, they didn't just get lost. Whatever happened that day in 1997 was not natural, and it was not random. Even now, if you walk deep enough into Pine Ridge Trail, your phone will lose signal, the air will grow strangely cold, and sometimes, very faintly, you can still hear that low humming sound drifting through the trees, just like the one on the tape. And when you hear it, you'll realize the most terrifying truth of all. The forest never let them go.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.